A Texas woman has been arrested following allegations that she sent a threatening voicemail message to Judge Tanya Chutkan, who of course is the judge overseeing the Department of Justice's election interference case against Donald Trump. Now, of course, Donald Trump's Truth Social posts don't do anything to help this situation at all. He puts out his own threats, but they aren't at all as explicit as the threats that we're about to get into. Now, according to a criminal complaint filed last week, on the night of August 5th, prosecutors alleged that Abigail Jo Schrei left a voicemail for Judge Tanya Chutkan, who is black, that said in part, "You are in our sights, we want to kill you." The reporting continues to say that in the message to Chutkan, Schrei alleged that if Trump were not to be elected president in 2024, quote, "We are coming to kill you," end quote, and you will be targeted personally, publicly, your family, all of it, end quote, per the complaint. Look, I think that this is someone who is obviously obsessed with Donald Trump and will stop it, in her mind, stop at nothing to ensure that he gets elected again in 2024. I don't know why they felt the need to name or label the judge's race. I don't think that this was inspired by racism. I think this was inspired by someone who's a sycophant for Donald Trump. And
no, well, there's a good reason why they mention race in this context. First of all, she sent it to Chutkan. She also sent it to Sheila Jackson Lee, who's also black. But hold on, it gets way worse than that. And they're both, but Sheila Jackson Lee's from Texas. That's her home state. You say, well, maybe it's coincidental. No, not coincidental. Because she also said in the messages, "You're a stupid slave."
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, and called her the N-word.
Okay, my apologies. I did not see that. That was not in the report that I read. My apologies. Okay, so definitely racially motivated. I don't know why they left it out of the CBS report.
That's okay.
Yeah, but anyway.
But you're right, by the way. I read several articles that didn't have it, and some articles that did.
Why do they do this?
And I thought that's so curious. Why did they leave it out of the other articles?
I don't understand why some legacy media outlets omit important information, especially because in the context of the CBS News report, you specifically mention, you go out of your way to mention that the judge is black, but then in the rest of the piece, there is no mention of the racist attacks against these individuals. Anyway, apologies for that. All right, but there are more details to this. So 3 days after that call and after that voicemail message, special agents with the Department of Homeland Security visited her home in the city of Alvin, which is located in the Houston metropolitan area. And she allegedly admitted to making the call and leaving the message. And so she even told the special agents that she was not planning to travel to DC, but if Lee comes to Alvin, then we need to worry. I can't believe, not only did she admit to it, which I'm glad she did, but then she continues to put out threats as she's talking to investigators.
Yeah, look, I get it. People who are going to do these terroristic threats, and in this case, quite literal, are not the brightest bulbs, right? So this reminds me of a story I've told often. A bunch of my friends got into a fight in New Jersey when we were growing up. I wasn't there that day. They go to court. The other guy punched my friend in the face, and he says, "Your Honor, I didn't punch him in the face. It's not true. I punched him in the stomach." And the judge is like, "That's still assault, so you just confessed." Okay, so and that's what she's doing here. Like, I wasn't gonna go to DC to murder her. I was only gonna murder her if she came to town. Thank you for the confession. But guys, the fact that she's not the brightest bulb is not any relief at all. So we're not talking about Trump. Like, my main concern, I've said it 100 times on the show, is not that Trump is going to build this incredibly sophisticated system where people are going to attack you and they have brilliant strategy, etc. No, it's called stochastic terrorism. They just say, well, no one rid me of this meddlesome priest, okay? Like, someone do something about this biased, terrible person, and then they are expecting that the least bright people will take that cue and go, okay, I'll do it, right? And they're kind of almost halfway expecting them to be not that bright, to do something this horrible and reactionary.
So something that stood out to me in regard to Donald Trump's posts on Truth Social was something that he said specifically about this judge. So let's go to the last graphic here. Chutkan, who has overseen several cases related to the January 6th Capitol insurrection, issued a protective order last week limiting the use and disclosure of sensitive material in the case moving forward. And this is the relevant part. Trump publicly attacked Chutkan in a Truth Social post Sunday, calling her, quote, very unbiased and unfair. I don't know how that makes any sense. I think he maybe just made a mistake there.
No,
you want an unbiased judge, but okay.
No, I mean, you want to talk about not the brightest bulb. I mean, of all the different jack-o'-lanterns this Halloween, I mean, that guy is just the dimmest one of them all. No candle in the jack-o'-lantern at all. But what I always find amazing is that he's a former president. He has all these staffers, right? And no one goes, Mr. President, so sorry, you just have to take out the un part. You meant very biased and unfair. No one dares to do that. And so to this day, he just leaves it up.
Yeah, totally.
Even though it's totally wrong. I mean, he's made 1,000 mistakes, blatant, over the top, crazy mistakes that nobody ever corrects because he will not take any criticism, and he's not that bright himself. And so it's just super embarrassing in 1,000 different ways. But guys, the embarrassing part we've been over 1 billion times with Donald Trump. The dangerous part is the part we're worried about here. And look, there's this potential silver lining here out of this horrible, horrific story. And by the way, his fans are now starting to apparently dox grand jurors.
Right, we talked about that on the show yesterday.
Yeah, and so that's an unbelievable disaster. That's exactly what brown shirts do. They instigate vigilante terrorism against anyone who opposes them, making good, decent people not want to go into the public square and back away, so only the bad guys wind up dominating the conversation and politics and media, etc. But where the hell's the silver lining? Look, at some point, the Republican Party and its voters have to decide if they're this ugly. And so if you're a leftist and you say, are you crazy? They made that decision 2,000 times already, right? They did in 2016 with 17 people in the race. They chose him out of that lot. In 2020, 93% of Republicans backed him and said, I make that case in my book, Justice is Coming, right? Get the link down below, tyt.com/justice. Anyways, but I think he's gonna go over the top and say something significantly violent on the record. Like, we know he told Mark Meadows, his chief of staff, that he didn't mind Mike Pence being killed by his supporters. But it's not on tape. You didn't see him saying that, right? And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he'll say it and MAGA will go, I'm good with it, right?
If he said that over the phone, couldn't that recording be subpoenaed?
It's not at all clear that he said it over the phone. And if it's the White House, I'm not even sure what rules apply. Right? So, but Mark Meadows might be turning evidence against him, but MAGA's not gonna believe anyone else. They're not gonna believe Meadows, they're not gonna believe anyone. But if he's on TV and he says maybe she should be killed, I don't know that he's gonna go that far, and I don't know that he's gonna say it about this person. I hope he never says it about anybody, right? But he has verbal diarrhea, and he cannot help himself, and his instinct is towards violence. And so if he goes over that line, which I suspect at some point he will, that's my guess. Then the Republican Party has a decision to make. Are you still going to stick with this monster? And I don't know the answer.
So I don't even know if like the mainstream Republican Party has a choice. And the reason why I say that isn't because I want to encourage them to continue putting him up on a pedestal or propping him up. Obviously, there have been multiple instances in which the Republican Party, the mainstream Republican Party, has tried to kind of purge Trump from the party, and it hasn't worked. And the reason why it hasn't worked, Cenk, is because of the voting base, right? And the loyalty among that about 1/3 of Republican voters who will stand by Trump no matter what he does. You get what I'm saying? So I feel like the Republican Party kind of created this monster, and now they don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, there's only 3 possibilities. Look, one is that he flat out wins. Let's not forget that possibility.
That's definitely a possibility.
In fact, right now, him and Biden are tied. I just checked Real Clear Politics average of polls, 44.4 to 44.0.
That's an indictment on Biden.
100%. I mean, the Democrats love to talk about what a monster Donald Trump is, and that's fair, I think he is. but your boy's tied with him. So what's wrong with your guy? But they never, ever talk about that, ever. And anyway, so massive bias on the part of mainstream media and Democrats in Washington overall. But so he could win, that's still definitely possible, in which case we're all screwed. I mean, take this vigilante violence and encouraging it and multiply it by 1,000 once they have power, right? And an unstoppable mic in form of the bully pulpit. Okay, but let's say that he somehow loses at some point. Well, then there you got two choices there. One is that all this stuff gets to him, he says something terrible, and remember that third that Anna's talking about, it's a little bit high on that. 37% say they don't think Trump's ever done anything wrong. This is of the Republican base. And that they can't foresee anything that's gonna make a difference, okay? 41% of Republicans say that it might be time for violence. My guess is that there's a significant overlap between those two groups, right? So those folks are, I'm sorry, but irredeemable, right? So, but now you still have 63% of Republicans that are not hopeless. And so yes, Trump could, if he says something just wildly over the top about murdering someone or something, it's possible that 63% of Republicans go, this is a bridge too far, besides which we're not gonna win. This is crazy. We have to pick someone who's gonna win. We're not gonna win with a guy going around telling people that he's gonna decapitate folks or whatever. Again, remember, he didn't say that. That's my hypothetical, my guess as to that he's gonna cross the line, right? So that's one possibility. And then the last possibility is, no, they stick with him all the way, and he has a 40-point lead on DeSantis right now. So that's the most likely. He becomes a Republican candidate, as Anna suggests, and then whether it's Biden or someone else, like 63% of the country says he shouldn't run. And he did something very seriously wrong, which is another story we're gonna get to, okay? Sorry, the 63% said he did something very seriously wrong. That 63% is not gonna vote for him. Like, I know he's tied with Biden, but Biden is enormously, ridiculously weak. Like, just get any other human being and he can get landslided to the point where Republicans think, man, we just totally screwed up. Like, this was a humiliating defeat.
Yeah.
I mean, just get me any random Democratic governor and there's a good chance it's a humiliating defeat. And at which point, what are you gonna come back from? I mean, you're gonna come back from getting only 30% in a general election, 35% in a general election? I mean, you can't, those are too low. But so that's a possibility for how this story ends. And a lot of those outcomes, forget the country, are not good for the Republican Party, but you just can't get the voters to believe that, at least at this point. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.